Wait a minute, I've got an idea.
Hang on! You're starting to look like your old self again. It's still not working. Maybe I'm not doing it hard enough.
Hang on a second. Let me just...
Squidward, you're even more handsome now! And the crowd is in a frenzy! Nope, still too handsome.
Hello everybody and welcome, this is Comodin Cam. In today's video, we're going to be ranking every Wheeljack design from worst to best. Since his debut in 1984, Wheeljack has been fairly consistent with his design, for the most part.
What is that? Ugh, it's hideous!
Dissect for future study.
Now, was it really worth it to re-upload this video just for the sake of Pablo? Yeah, I think so. He just means that much to me, okay? So without further ado, let's dive straight into the tier names. The first one we have...
You know, it sure is nice when one of my inventions actually works.
Basically, the best Wheeljack design. Following up next, we've got...
I've got to work on their personality circuits.
Now moving on to the neutral tier.
Here I go again, shattering expectations.
Where I kinda like it, but then I don't at the same time. At the second worst tier, we've got...
B, I think they're going to kill us. Your time is... Wait.
Poor Wheeljack. You're gonna die. And finally, the worst tier is just...
Oh, scrap.
First up, we've got the Generation 1 toy box art. Now, this design is actually fairly consistent to how it translated into the cartoon. I think the toy of the Generation 1 Wheeljack is one of the best out of a lot. Like, I really want to own that. It just seems really cool to have. It's very authentic. The only thing I'd knock it is the red at the back, but it's because this G1 toy box art represents the dire clone original version of Wheeljack more than the actual toy itself. So only a few alterations there. Alright, let's move on to the cartoon Wheeljack himself. A clean cut from his toy represents it really well. Granted, obviously his legs are a bit more skinnier, but I like this Wheeljack. This would be the definitive version of a character that would inspire the rest, that would follow him. I like it, it's just good. But more interestingly, we'll talk about the Marvel Comics. This took a slight alteration in terms of a colour swapping. We got a lot of blue and a lot of white. And the green is just not there, and I don't think it really works. There's just some colour patterns from the original Generation 1 toy and cartoon that should have been put on there. I mean, the design's still good, it's just the colours, and that just goes to show how the colours are really important on making a design pop out. Originally, I was going to put this in personality circuits, but to be honest, it shatters expectations. What hasn't got a personality, however, is the Action Master Wheeljack. This looks like a demon. Oh my god, this thing is scary. I do not trust him with those weapons. I don't like the Action Master's line. I think this should be apparent now through these tier list videos. This just looks terrible. I mean, at least I got the green on there, I guess, but their eyes are... Oh god, this is a very ugly looking figure. Now, as we know, Wheeljack is best known for his inventions, but did you know that he invented himself in becoming a stamp bot? Yes, this is real, and it is disgusting. Look at those hands. I can definitely imagine government officials having this on their desk. He also invented himself as a zipper clip. Why are they doing this to my poor boy? Every time, and the face. Oh my god, where's his eyes? Non-existent. If you couldn't have guessed already, these are in the lowest tier. An interesting design that's still in the realm of Generation 1 is the definitive G1 Collection Wheeljack render. You'll see this on the books. I like this because of his wings. Everything else is cool, it's the same design of Wheeljack that we all know, but I don't know why, those wings just really stand out to me. I like how they're well stretched. I kind of hope we see more of that in future incarnations. Another interesting one that I like to talk about is the alternator slash Binaltech Wheeljack. This is one of the designs that actually stands out from the rest, and I actually saw this quite a lot as a kid in the NGS Smooth skits. I don't know if anyone remembers those. Just the way how it moved in animation was like a big commercial for the actual Binaltech toy itself. Like, they took the colours from the Marvel Comics and actually put it in a design that actually works, and works for the vehicle mode as well. Not a bad car mode. I don't think it's perfect, but it's alright. What's not so perfect, however, is the Spy Changes Wheeljack slash the toy. I mean, look at these two. they just look like wanderers. While granted giving it the colours in the toy mode, the vehicle mode, however, that's not Wheeljack's car mode, as we all know, that's Mirage more like. It's still nonetheless, I'm not too fussy about Wheeljack changing his alt mode. The design as a whole is just boring. Alright, next up we'll talk about the Shattered Glass Wheeljack. We'll talk about both of them, with the colours basically being identical but just placed on different designs. I mean, what can I say? I'm not a big Shattered Glass fan, but honestly, this is not bad. The colours actually work, I think, for an evil version of Wheeljack, so yeah, I'll put this just in the middle though. Alright, let's talk about a Wheeljack now that I knew from my childhood. It is the Armada Wheeljack. Now, I'm not going to talk about this too much because, well, I kind of covered it in my Sideswipe video because, well, this design is pretty much Sideswipe, and even the head. But the thing is, the head, bit of a history lesson, the final design for the Armada Wheeljack was actually unintentional. Unbeknownst to Hasbro, Takara had already designed and sculpted the head to resemble more of Generation 1 Sideswipe. And they were actually shocked when they actually got the prototype from Japan. They were like, wait, this is Sideswipe, not Wheeljack? I mean, it would have been interesting just to see a Wheeljack head on this design. I still think it could have worked. But I mean, I like the back of his arms. It's like a little cape. You know, I've always got Dracula vibes from this kind of Wheeljack, you know? And it's definitely, out of all the Wheeljacks, I think the biggest departure out of all of them. But I still think as a design, it actually works really well. You know, I think the black and yellow actually mixes in really well. Next up, we've got Energon Downshift. Wait, this is a Wheeljack tier list. Well, actually, in the Japanese version of Energon, they did refer to this as Wheeljack. But in the actual English show, they kept switching the names from Cliffjumper to Downshift. I actually don't know why they just didn't call it Wheeljack, because obviously it looks like Wheeljack, mostly his Generation 1 version to start off with. But actually, Wheeljack in Armada was the only Decepticon that didn't go over to Energon, and it would have made sense to have made that character switch back to the Autobot side. Just, if I could go back in time. Regardless, this design, yeah, this is like a Shattered Glass feel, you know, to be honest. We've got a lot of mucky green, a lot of bright green, but then we've got this shade of red that's in weird places of the character. You know, I'm not saying it's a bad design, I just think the colours don't really work on this design at all. Next up, we've got Cybertron's Downshift / Wheeljack. I mean, I actually like the vehicle mode on this, and this is a lot more of a simpler design, and I think the colours really work because they've only just stuck to like 3 main primary colours. Like, you've got green, you've got black, and you've got that tint of like orange going off there. I think it works, and it does well for the vehicle mode, so not bad actually. Way better than Energon. Next up, we've got a fan favourite of mine. This is Animated Wheeljack. Now, I really like this design a lot. I always wanted a toy of this. It just works. This is a Cybertronian mode of Wheeljack, and we have him in vehicle mode as well, which is very nice. I didn't even know that his face there, that's a beard. I did not think of that as a beard at all, and this would be later used in Cyberverse. Just a really good design, really works well. You can see that Generation 1 feel added in with the Cybertronian element that Animated had going for it. Let's talk about some of the Wheeljack designs from the movies. We have the PSP 2007 Wheeljack. His robot mode is pretty much authentic to G1 in certain areas. You know, it's got that same design silhouette, just adding on that movie element. I love how he got in his chest there, parts like kind of sticking out of him. And to be honest, if he showed up like this in the first 2007 movie, I think a lot of fans actually would have been happy about it. Now, Dark of the Moon Wheeljack has 2 different designs, and the first one we're going to talk about is from the IDW movie comics. This is when he's on Cybertron, this is before he comes to Earth. I like the head design. It would have been good for the body to have more colour to it. You know, it would have been just good to have those G1 colours added onto this, because I think it's actually a pretty good Bayverse design compared to what we eventually got. But still, nonetheless, I think this is the more badass looking Wheeljack head design we've had. But now, let's talk about Grandad Wheeljack, or Einstein. As a design, I actually really like it. I think it's an interesting take despite the direct homage to Einstein. Do I think it works as Wheeljack, however? No, but the personality of the character does fit in with Wheeljack traditionally. I think there are just some overlaying parts that make it more complicated than it needs to, but the head design as a whole, I gotta admit, when he died in the movie, it actually really hurt. I don't know why, I got kind of emotional about it. But that's just props to the voice actor. But I mean, look at that render, that thing is cursed. Now, one more surprising movie design was actually in the Age of Extinction toy line. We have a more authentic G1 looking Wheeljack head with the same body as Q from Dark of the Moon. This is just bizarre to me. You can clearly tell what the studio wanted compared to what Hasbro wanted. You know, this is actually a pretty good head design. You know, the green is a very interesting take, you know, going all around and with his eyes as well. I wouldn't have chose that as for the final version. I would have at least given him some eyes, but I think it's actually pretty cool. It's actually a pretty good alteration. You know, for people who were really disappointed with the Q design, well, at least Age of Extinction gave you kind of a what if scenario, like what if he showed up like this in the Dark of the Moon movie instead. Credit to Barricade24 for modifying that head image and placing it on the actual CGI model, just kind of an idea of how it could have looked if it did appear in the Dark of the Moon movie. Alright, now let's talk about Hearts of Steel Wheeljack, and as we can see, there's lots of steel on this, especially on the head. Like, wow, there's a lot of detail there, especially on the back of him as well. I like how his wings actually look like angel wings. A really interesting take on the character. I think in the world of Hearts of Steel, this is a good addition. Alright, now let's move on to the Creo series of Wheeljack. Let's talk about the mini version. This is cute, you know, like I've been saying for all of them. They actually do a pretty alright job in being faithful, but it's actually his full-on toy that is, ooh, like, damn, this guy, yeah, he's, I don't know, he just looks like a rejected experiment. Poor guy, put him down. Okay, now let's talk about a Wheeljack that would drastically reshape his personality. It is from Transformers Prime. A very more warrior vibe of a Wheeljack. You know, this guy is a tough one. He is part of a wreckers group. I think this design just shows how hard edge he is, and it gives people another perception of a Wheeljack character. It definitely threw a lot of people off, but this design is actually pretty badass when you look at it. It fits in with the Prime aesthetic really well, and he is definitely a standout out of all of the Transformers Prime characters. It's like G1 Wheeljack just went on steroids or something. When Transformers Prime got to Beast Hunters, every character had a mini upgrade, and Wheeljack got that same treatment, and holy shit, he looks like he's ready to go on a massacre. I mean, those wings on the back, he looks like some sort of demigod. I would say out of all the Transformers Prime characters to get this treatment, I think it's actually more appropriate for Wheeljack to have this. He just looks way more menacing. But I don't think it works all that well, but it gives me more Downshift vibes. But the last Prime Wheeljack we have is the Dark Energon exclusive. I mean, this is pretty much shattered glass. It's alright, the colour's alright, the translucent plastic is not all doing it for me. What does do it for me is the Q Wheeljack. I mean, that's it. Look at him. He's adorable. Moving on. Oh, you poor creature. Oh dear. Okay, let's move on quick. Alright, moving on to IDW Wheeljack. Now, I like this a lot, mostly due to how different it is compared to the rest. Did a lot of creative liberties on the chest, while still maintaining its tropes. You know, it's got the colours there, which is all great. The feet, yes, they're gigantic, but I don't know what it is with Wheeljack. It just seems like the front of his legs have just evolved more over time to be sharper and sharper. And on that note, we'll talk about the World of Tomorrow Wheeljack. This is a revived version. This is more in line to the Prime style while still adding in bits from before. I mean, this to me just looks absolute badass. You know, I like the head sculpt especially. I love how, unlike the Prime Wheeljack that didn't have the kind of glowy effect with his mouth, this one does. And I think this just kind of blends in the best of both worlds. Alright, now let's talk about Fall of Cybertron Wheeljack. This is just, I mean, what can I say about the War of Cybertron / Fall of Cybertron designs, but I haven't said already. They just blend in the G1 aesthetic and give them these brand new, good alterations of Cybertronian forms that just work so well. I like Wheeljack's shoulders, they've always popped out to me. And I actually always used to play as Wheeljack in multiplayer. I would always use his parts, especially on other characters when I was customizing. There's just something about it that just really works for me. And it's a shame he didn't get a proper role in the game. I just love how the green kind of is traced all over his body. A really good way of revitalizing an original design. But what I think adds in a good combination of the muscle Wheeljack from the Align continuity and the kind of invention look from Fall of Cybertron is this custom design here that we have. This is by well-known TFW 2005 user Frog DNA. I have always looked at this design for years when concepturing my whole kind of vision of Wheeljack. Like, it's got the Prime head with a bunch of parts on it that blends in with G1, but with also, you know, the Fall of Cybertron look. Like, this is a custom-made toy that someone did perfectly, I think. Like, wow, just the detailing on this is just amazing. I just think that this overall is a good modern look for Wheeljack, and it just deserves the highest praise. A fantastic custom. Alright, next up we've got Wheeljack as a bag. Yes, Wheeljack, a great inventor, has become a figural bag clip. Okay, let's just talk about Combiner Wars Wheeljack. This is probably the most boring design I've ever seen. Like most of the Combiner Wars figures at the time, this shares nothing unique. The vehicle mode is alright, but this robot mode is the most blandest and... oh god, there was no thought put into this. Alright, next up we've got the Constructor Bots Wheeljack. I mean, oh god, this is definitely all over the place. He looks like a pirate, actually. Yeah, he looks like a pirate, that's what I'm going to go with. Right, now we've got Battle Tactics. It looks like that bot from Astro's Playroom. Next up we've got Transfer's Devastation Wheeljack, and he's a bit more chunkier than his original Generation 1 design. They've added more red to his legs, and they've also altered his chest just a little bit. At the top it looks like a British cross, but still a good faithful rendition of G1. Alright, next up we've got Earth Wars and Forged to Fight Wheeljack. There's a little bit of difference here and there. I prefer Forged to Fight. I don't know, the only thing I like more about Earth Wars is just his wings being a bit higher. I kind of like that. But I feel like Forged to Fight is a more faithful rendition and actually does a really good job on its vehicle mode as well. I actually really like it a lot. I just think the detailing on Forged to Fight is just a lot better. Next up we've got Transformers Universe MMO. Now we actually have two versions of Wheeljack. The only difference is in the chest. You know, the first one is a more Transformers Prime inspired style, which is what the game was inspired by to begin with. And then you got a second version, which I assume this is more their take, something that they wanted to do creatively. Whether or not it changed to the other, I don't know, but nonetheless, I actually really like both. It's actually hard to decide. I guess I'll just have to go with a different variation on the chest, just because it's different from Prime. You can see a lot of Prime inspired stuff going off here. Like, if you thought Transformers Prime Wheeljack was a badass, this just takes it to another level. Another design that takes it to another level is the Chinese MMO Wheeljack. This is just extreme badass mode. Like, this Wheeljack is not messing around. He doesn't seem like a mad scientist, to be honest. He just looks like a full-on warrior, like a cage warrior. I mean, this render art of him here is probably the most badass Wheeljack has ever looked. He looks like a grunt. He looks moody as hell. But I will give props to the chest. I love the bulkness of it. I love how different it is. Just taking that G1 design but then completely reimagining it. Alright, next up we've got Evergreen and Cyberverse Wheeljack. Now I'm going to talk about these both because they're pretty much identical. I will admit I prefer the Cyberverse animation version of this design than the actual original. I think it's just because I like the Cyberverse one just a bit better, and ironically enough I actually like it with the mouth. A part of me wish he just kept the kind of faceplate, but I actually don't knock it either. They brought the beard back as well from Transformers Animated, which is pretty cool. I just think this Evergreen design is a good base model for, you know, following the Wheeljack kind of like design silhouette. And to be honest, when you look at this design, it actually combines a lot of different other Wheeljacks. You know, we've got the beard, the face from Animated, we've got his antennas, which are very much more like Transformers Prime, where they don't flicker, and then the rest of his body is just very authentic to G1. Following on that, we'll talk about the Cyberverse Siege Wheeljack. Now, yeah, it's pretty much grounded in the roots of G1, there's not really that much altered about it. But that's what the toy line was going for anyway, so I'm not really going to complain that much. It's just alright, but obviously in this image here with the toys, the scratch marks just don't do it well. It was nice seeing him though in the show. I mean, I just would have loved a few odd changes near and there. But I mean, everyone, come on. The best Wheeljack design has got to be the Kid Robot G.I. Joe Wheeljack Mini. I mean, look at him. He's just so happy with life, isn't he? He's like, please help me. I'm stuck in this still form state. End my life. Next up, we've got Transformers EarthSpark Wheeljack. Now, this is a combination Prime and Generation 1, very much like Cyberverse. And I like the animation style here. He looks really cool. His vehicle mode as well is really badass. I was so happy that he showed up in EarthSpark. Even if it was for just one episode, I hope we get more episodes with him. Now, yes, once again, this Wheeljack was denied his antennas lighting up. It's like, come on guys, can't we just get that for one show at least? But that's always going to be a nitpick for me. The accent kind of threw me off at first, but I don't think it ruins the whole aesthetic of the design really. The more we got to know his character, the more I actually really enjoyed it. I really like the all green wings at the back, like he's just got more green on him and the stripes just work well with that red and white. I would really love like a deluxe class figure of this guy. We need it because all we've got at the minute is the terminally ill Wheeljack. He's just all white, he looks really poorly. God, please, put some colour on that guy. Alright, next up we've got the Bumblebee movie Wheeljack. Now, I feel like the complaint of how G1 would never translate to the movies, you look at this and you go, well, obviously that's not true. They do translate well, and I think this is a good version of Wheeljack, really nice. I own the Studio Series toy. I like the vehicle mode especially, even though we don't get to see in the movie, of course. but I think this is pretty cool, pretty nice. It's just good to see those antennas again light up. Just the patterns across his body, they just work so well, and when you see that in vehicle mode especially, it just really pops out. This is why Wheeljack is such a good design, and why he's really not changed throughout the years. It's because that design is a standout, it's easily recognizable, he's just a good eye-popping design. Now we expected all of the designs from the Bumblebee movie to be carried over to Transformers Rise of the Beast, and that did happen, except for Wheeljack, also known as PABLO. We went from this to this. I've got an idea.
Hang on! You're starting to look like your old self again. It's still not working. Maybe I'm not doing it hard enough.
Hang on a second. Let me just...
Yeeks! Squidward, you're even more handsome now! And the crowd is in a frenzy! Nope, still too handsome.
Shout out to Twitter user Tomy1513 for that incredible handsome Wheeljack design. This definitely belongs in the highest tier. When I first saw this, I just love it. I had to include it in this video. Just wow. That's just a perfect summation of this whole debate, conversation surrounding Wheeljack in Rise of the Beast. Now this invention actually works. Now this design, out of all of the designs we've seen from Transformers Rise of the Beast, has been the most controversial, the biggest debate, and kind of a split in the fandom. At the beginning there was a lot of hate towards poor Pablo here, and while I have made my little jokes and edits, I don't actually despise this design. I hope my opinion can somewhat strike a balance. Now the toy was revealed first, and it wasn't a studio series, it was just part of the main line. And I gotta admit, when I first saw Pablo here, I didn't like it, just because I loved so much what came before it. Now, I actually do like the robot mode and the vehicle mode. I like the Volkswagen. My mum's going to go nuts for this character when we watch it in the cinemas because she's a big Volkswagen camper van fan. Like, when you enter my mother's house, they're pretty much everywhere. And I like this, especially with the TV Pablo on the back, so you can tell that this guy is like a mechanic of sorts, very much to the character trait of Wheeljack. And the first time I saw the face, I found it jarring. And we recently got a new poster for this as well, so we can actually see it close up in detail. I've seen the comparisons to Steve Urkel, and the glasses are very much too on the nose in my opinion. Like, they're very loud and too cartoony. Yes, I know, the irony in that. Like, are we actually going to get a scene where Wheeljack is watching an episode of Family Matters? I actually think it's possible. Now, like I said, I do like this design, but I think there could have been just some things tweaked to make it look less humanoid. That's my biggest problem with the design. It's just too humanoid, like the lips and the nose and the glasses, like, really? Now, the backlash was so strong, there was actually rumours of it getting redesigned, and a lot of people were in doubt about this because, well, we're very close to the film's release. But do I care so much to want it to be changed? Not really. Like, I don't want the poor animators go through all the scenes they have of him already and just change a face. I mean, who knows, probably behind the scenes they had a debate backwards and forwards if they should keep the original Wheeljack or this brand new idea. And this is their vision. I think the fans' biggest issue with this is just the lack of consistency, considering that Rise of the Beast is a sequel to the Bumblebee movie. I think we can all agree that consistency in these Transformers movies isn't their biggest strong suit. And I don't think anyone can deny that this is a drastic change, so of course fans are going to be upset, and I think they're entitled to be. Especially if they love that original Wheeljack design, but then at the same time, this isn't about just being a G1 or anything like that. This is just about loving that Wheeljack design that's been consistent throughout the years. And that lack of consistency will bother people. And this is exactly like Q from Dark of the Moon. I was very much against that design at first, but then I actually really grew to like the character, and I was really upset when Q died, probably because he didn't have enough screen time. Now, what I did to set my mind kind of at ease about the Q and Wheeljack situation was to just think of him as Q and not Wheeljack. I mean, he referred to himself as Q. He didn't say his name was Wheeljack, so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll just think of you as Q. And the toys naming you Wheeljack will just be its own thing. It doesn't really matter. Like, I'll be surprised if they actually name him Wheeljack in the film and they just call him Pablo. That could probably be his nickname, just like what they did in Dark of the Moon. I mean, I can't say I'm angry about this. Like, if they acknowledge him as Wheeljack in the film, like they call him Wheeljack, and that'll be it. But if they don't, then we can just call him Pablo. But if they do call him Wheeljack, then you could just block out that memory, I guess. I mean, this is nothing really new. I've covered so many characters on my ranking videos having completely different designs from their original counterpart. Now this is where it gets interesting. In the recent teaser for the trailer that's coming out tomorrow, we actually have his fins extend to the iconic fins that we know him from the Bumblebee movie. But in the wide shot version of this teaser, they don't extend. So did they just include it at last minute because of a backlash? And they forgot to add it in when they released the wide version of this? Because trailers always do a cropped version when you see them on social media. So this is really interesting. I think they fixed this personally, because wouldn't we have seen the fins on the toy? Like, wouldn't that have been a lot more cooler? Like, is this part of his battle mask or something, and the fins extending, like, is going to be exactly how we saw him in the B movie? Was this the intention the entire time, or has it just been fixed? Is this Pablo's redemption arc?
Pablo, on behalf of everyone, I'm so sorry.
See, the thing is, I can live with Wheeljack having a mouth, because we've already seen Wheeljack in the past have a mouth. But it's like, if you're going to name him Wheeljack, you could have just at least given him those big antennas instead of those kind of tiny ones. But it's just obviously your personal preference. I'm not going to tell you to love this or hate it. You obviously make up your own mind. You guys are the judge. And you know what? It's actually been kind of heartwarming to see the fan base for Pablo grow so strong. I hope my opinion on this doesn't sound too confusing. It's just, well, that's it. It's confusing. I'm very conflicted, but I'm not going to let it bother me all that much where it ruins the film for me. I mean, Pablo couldn't do that. I'm not outright dissing it either. Like, I actually like the robot mode, like the body a lot, and the face. Now, I may have some issues with the face by just the design alone, not really about the whole Wheeljack thing. I've grown to really accept it as its own, like, unique design. I'm kind of relaxed about it now. And seeing the fandom have a lot of love towards Pablo, it kind of makes me just want them to name him Pablo, just so he could become like a brand new character on his own. But with him being labelled Wheeljack, I have to include him in this tier list. While he does shatter expectations, I think he's going to get his own tier, and I think I'll name it
The Sixth for Future Study.
Now we're going to move into some fan arts now, because I like to pay tribute to all the great Transformers fan art out there. And well, I want to carry on the conversation from Rise of the Beast Wheeljack and talk about a redesign by Kairito Tan, which perfectly represents what I would have liked to have seen in the movie. Simply because I am just a big fan of that Wheeljack design. It's just so iconic. I mean, we got those lighting antennas back, something we had not seen from Wheeljack, well, pretty much since the Generation 1 cartoon. So yeah, I mean, this would have just been so much cooler. It would have struck that balance, I think, between the fandom. Like, this is just terrific. And I love the extra stuff added to the body as well, just to show that this guy is, you know, a mechanic and an inventor. You know, he's got like grenades on him there as well. And the goggles, they've been toned down, you know, they're not so exaggerated, and it's not cartoony, it's just perfectly right, because I'm not against Wheeljack having kind of goggles. I think it's like a cool character trait. Like, these goggles make him more sophisticated, as Wheeljack should be. He's an inventor, and with this design, it looks like one of his inventions can actually work, so he definitely belongs in the highest tier. I hope you enjoyed this updated ranking video. I plan to do more remakes of other characters I've covered on this channel before, with updated designs added. I want to thank everybody for the warm reception on my latest big video. It's ranking every Generation 1 episode. It's a whopping 6 hours and 34 minutes long, but trust me, it's some of my best work and I think you'll really enjoy it. Jam-packed of jokes, in-depth analysis on all the episodes, and loads of cameo appearances from other great Transformers YouTubers. It's essentially the ultimate collab. And I just want to thank everybody who's been supporting that video. After spending months making it, seeing all the positive feedback and reception has truly meant the world to me. Expect more Transformers character designs ranked in the future, so to keep updated on that, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell to get all updates instantly. This has been Comodin and Cam, and until next time, Pablo out.